Okay, so I had a request on YouTube in a comment to explain if the basic Cessna in the flight simulators, X-Plane or Flight Simulator 2020, has ILS and whether you can use that to land. Well, of course you can. It's just that it doesn't have auto land, so the ILS is going to work. So today I'm just going to show you how the nav radios work, how ILS actually works. So in order to explain what we're going to do, I'm going to jump across to Little Nav Map. So you can see my plane is sat here on the ground at Southampton Airport, and I've drawn into the map the traffic pattern. So we're going to take off on runway 20. We're going to fly upwind. We're going to do a normal kind of circuit, coming back 20 degrees magnetic, and then we'll be able to go by the features on the ground to know as soon as we have passed these two small villages on the edge of Southampton, we can turn onto our base leg and come back in. We're going to tune the radio to, I presume it's the same frequency in Flight Simulator, we'll soon find out, to 110.75, 200 degrees magnetic. So one nice way we can try that out within the simulator, if we go and get inside the aeroplane and go to ATC, we can tune Southampton ATIS.
Southampton Airport information, Echo 1000 Zulu. Line 214 at 22. Visibility, tree. Sky condition, few clouds at 700 feet, few clouds at 4,500 feet, few clouds at 11,600 feet. Temperature, 16. 2.10. Altimeter, 29.56. ILS runway 20 in use. Landing and departing runway 20. VFR aircraft say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact you have Echo.
Okay, so they're not going to give us the frequency.
Information, Echo 1000 Zulu. Line 214 at 22.
I'm just detuning the radio over here to stop us from hearing it. Because whether you were aware of this or not, all of the radio frequencies are operating all the time in the real world, and obviously you just tune in to listen to them. The same thing's kind of true in the simulator, except it's triggering it the other way around, where if you tune to the frequency it will start playing it. In the real world it's playing all the time, and you just tune in to listen to it. So I guess virtually it kind of is in the simulator. So we're just going to taxi out. Let's center our screen up by pressing F in Flight Simulator 2020. Helps if you take the parking brake off. Okay, we're going to taxi out onto the runway. Go for the wider entry point up here and then come back. It's a dull day, so I've turned the lights on inside the aircraft. We'll soon know if I've got the frequency right for the radio. So I'll explain what I've done as soon as we're lined up before we take off. So we're just pulling out. There's no traffic around because I've told it not to be, although I am playing multiplayer. So we could see other aircraft in the air or even on the runway. I don't think there are many around at the moment, but I guess we'll find out. So you can see I've got the weather set to realistic, and it happens to be a cloudy, horrible, windy day in the UK today. So that's kind of useful for us because we're showing instrument landings. I don't think the cloud base is that low though, so. Okay, so we'll just wait. Let's try and slow down. Onto the grass. I don't like the way the lights have been drawn in Flight Sim 2020. They're all extended like a foot or 2 feet, 3 feet out of the ground, which is completely wrong. Okay. So we're back on the runway with our tiny little Cessna 152 trainer on runway 20 at Southampton. So the radios are over here, and you can see we've got com radio, and nav radio, and nav radio. The frequency for the ILS, according to Little Nav Map, if we go and have a look, is 110.75 for runway 20. So we'll find out. It should be, because that's the real world frequency for that runway. It is not what Flight Simulator put in. It had 110.5, I think. So what you can do with the nav radio is you can tune one of the frequencies, which you can see I'm doing by twisting the knob over here. So if I did want 110.75, the inner knob does the decimals, the outer knob does the integer part of the frequency. So we can flick between the frequencies. So if I had 11.5 over here and I press that button, it switches them over. This is the one we're actively using, so it says use, and this is the standby one, so you can have two frequencies ready at any time. So if you're wanting to jump between ATIS and approach, for example, you could have one ready to flick between them, so you've got no delay when you're doing so with tuning the frequencies. You can prepare in advance with two frequencies that you might want. And it's worth pointing out there are two nav radios, there are two com radios. So yeah, you've effectively got four frequencies to play with at once. The nav radios, so the nav frequencies relate to these two instruments. This is nav 1, this is nav 2. And you can see there's a crosshair here. This will apply to the ILS. I'm not going to get into the details of ILS today, but basically, if we are above the horizontal line, we are above the glide slope. So we're above where we should be in the sky. If we are below the horizontal line, we are below the glide slope, or below where we should be in the sky at a given time. If we are to the left of the white line, we are to the left of the glide slope, or left of the approach. If we are to the right of the vertical white line, we are to the right of the glide slope, or right of where we should be in the sky at that time. Okay, so let's go and fly this circuit. I'll just center the screen up and release the parking brake again, and we'll put some flaps down. If I look round, you can see the flaps moving. Look forwards again. So it's important probably to know a little bit about the instruments. So we are going to fly out 200 degrees. We're going to turn left, we can see here, to 110 degrees. Then we're going to turn back to 20 degrees. Then we're going to turn to 290 degrees. And then back onto our normal leg. So it's also, I have pre-tuned the OBS on the nav1. You'll see there's a compass ring around the outside. You typically would tune that to the direction of the runway of the ILS, for example. It works slightly differently, or you use it in a different way when you are navigating by radio beacons, because you can tune the radio to tell you what bearing the beacon is from your aircraft, or from the direction you're pointing. But I won't get into that too much today. We're just going to do this ILS example. So, full throttle. Off the brakes. The plane's jumping around because it really doesn't weigh much. So we're flying, or we're accelerating down the runway. We can see on the far left dial is our indicated airspeed. So it's coming up to 60 knots. And we're in the air. I've not done anything. We've lifted off. So another reason for putting the bug on the... Although actually there isn't a bug on the compass on a little Cessna. But we keep an eye on the compass down the bottom to make sure we're still flying the direction we took off. In Flight Sim 2020 this is a bit easier than X-Plane, because X-Plane simulates things a lot more realistically in the air. So the plane will be pushed around by both the torque of the engine and the airflow. Whereas you could argue that Flight Simulator is less realistic. So I'm lifting the flaps one. Again, I'm having to pull back at the moment, so I'm not going to bother trimming the plane out until we've finished our climb. So we're climbing up towards 1,000 feet. And I will begin our left turn in a minute to 110 degrees, which is 90 degrees left. So we're at 1,000 feet. Let's get the plane trimmed down. So I'm watching the vertical speed. Okay, let's start a slow turn to 110 degrees. We're still climbing, so I'm going to trim the plane slightly. Okay, so we're not climbing, or he says that as the needle starts moving. It's all a question of balancing the aeroplane on the throttle and the trim. So 110 is coming up, so we level out, so we're not turning anymore. I'm going to fly this route completely manually, by the way. So we can look out the side, we can see the airfield over there. Whoa, we're moving. So that's the air pushing us around. So when you're flying it yourself, you really do have to keep on top of things. So 110 degrees. So now we're going to turn left another 90 degrees. The wind is really pushing us around. It's good fun. You can see the plane being buffeted. It's because I've got realistic weather on and it's not a very nice day out there. So I'm trying to descend a little bit to bring us back down to 1,000 feet. So we want the reciprocal of 200 degrees, which is going to be 20 degrees. Just about there on the compass. So we straighten up. Now if I dare look sideways for a moment, I'm just going to try and get the plane. The plane is really being thrown around. So there's the airfield over there. We're flying the reciprocal of the runway direction, the opposite direction. Okay, so let's lose that height that we've gained. Drop the nose. So remember when we looked at the map, if we pass around the back of these two villages that you start to climb again. It really does keep having to trim it the entire time for gusts of wind. So if we remember, there's these two villages. If we turn around the back of them, we'll be in about the right place for the pattern. It's doing it again, look. Okay, we're gently descending now, which is good. We're holding 20 degrees. So we'll do another coordinated left turn as soon as we pass one of these villages. If we look out the back, you can see the airfield over there. Starting to be pushed sideways by the wind. Obviously, as the wind kicks off the hills while you're fairly low, it affects the aeroplane quite dramatically. So we've passed the villages, so we're going to start our next coordinated turn. When I say, whoa, look at that being pushed around. When I say coordinated turn, I'm actually talking about the wing being on the marker here. And what that really relates to is the amount of time it will take you to turn through a number of degrees. So it's preset on the instrument to do a coordinated turn. There's not much more I can say. It's a number of degrees a second, basically, based on the bank angle. So again, we're coming round to 290 degrees. So this is our base leg. Again, we can look out the side. You can see the airfield over there. I'm going to start looking forwards. We're getting too low. It's quite a low pattern we're doing, just at 1,000 feet. So I'm going to start the next leg. Start turning. Now, will the ILS come on? Or have they got the wrong frequency? Let's try flicking it. It should have been 110.75. There it goes. So it's saying we are below the glide slope and to the left of it. So we're below the horizontal line, but we're coming up to it, and we are to the left of the glide slope, because we are to the left of the horizontal line. So we're going to level out as soon as we have met the horizontal line, which is there, and we're going to carry on going right of the runway. I'm not looking out the window at the moment until we are on the vertical line, which is the horizontal component of the glide slope. So if we turn gently now, we should get there by the same time that the lines. I'm basically chasing those two lines on the nav1 radio. So we're slightly to the left and slightly above the glide slope. So I'm going to start slowing down and start dropping flaps. So all we're doing now is following the glide slope down and keeping an eye on speed. So we don't want to get too slow. We're slightly below the glide slope now, so pull up a little bit. There we go. Pretty much on the money. So the cloud wasn't a factor because we stayed so low. So we want to go slightly to the right. So the basic idea here is you can fly without being able to see outside. So if you had complete fog coverage down to like 100 yards visibility, you'd be absolutely fine flying on instruments. If you get less than that, down to kind of 50 yards or less, you're getting into kind of what they call Cat 3 range for the big airliners, where auto land comes into play. So we're just flying along and decreasing the speed gently. The flaps are already down. We're following the ILS, and it's going to place us basically on the touchdown point of the runway completely automatically. So this is where we just flare the aircraft out and we're down basically. There we are, we're down. So we start steering, get the brakes on, flaps back up, and we can taxi back to the hangars. So it's pretty straightforward really. The nav radios, you just chase the crosshair on the nav radio. And it's a very nice way of making sure that you are going to land where you think you're going to land. You can see it was important. I had to tune the radio to the correct frequency, and suddenly the instrument came alive. So I'm going to leave the plane here. I don't think there's any value in going and parking up. It's just a simulator after all. But there you go. That was a good demonstration. I'll stop the video now.